Coming up on the program, we're going to start possibly your favorite vegetable in the garden. We're going to start tomatoes. The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener is sponsored by the following. MIgardener.com, over 300 varieties of non-GMO, heirloom, organic flowers, vegetables, and herb seeds, all for 99 cents. MIgardener.com. Sioux Growing Supply, located in Wausau, Wisconsin, focusing on certified leaf compost, an excellent amendment for poor soil. With their new garden blend, improving soil structure in clay and sandy soil, great for creating new garden beds. Also available from Sioux's, pre-filled trays and pots with professional potting soil mix or organic rice hull-based potting soil mix. Bag and bulk of certified leaf compost also available. Visit SiouxGrowingSupply.com. Stop before you dig. Call Digger's Hotline first. Call 3 business days before you dig. It's the law. It's completely free and it's for your safety. Know what's below before you dig. It's your responsibility. Call Digger's Hotline or visit them at diggershotline.com. HappyLeafLED.com, commercial grade grow light with a home gardener's affordability. No fans, no motors, simply plug in and grow. Great for seed starting to lettuce to full grown tomatoes, all indoors. HappyLeafLED.com. Welcome to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener. I'm Joy Baird. Well, today we're going to plant tomatoes, and this is one of the most popular items in which gardeners grow across the world. Now, there's somewhere around 7,000 to 10,000 different varieties of tomatoes that are in the world. Now, not all of them are commercially available, and some of them are unique to certain families that have cross-pollinated and bred their own specific type of tomato in their own garden for many generations. We've got about 40 different varieties of tomatoes in which we are going to start this year. Seems like a lot, have a lot of space for them, and we do them in containers, raised beds, the ground, the whole deal. If you'd like to find out the varieties in which we are planting this year, you can go to our website, thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com, click on the tomato tab at the top, and it'll drop down a menu, and there's several different tabs in which you can choose about tomatoes, tomato varieties, how we grow them, and all of that. So we're going to do it planting our seeds in a unique or in a different way in order to save a lot of space on the front side, and it will allow us to have that extra space for about 3, maybe 4 weeks before we have to move them to a different container. We'll explain that. Now, we're using the majority of seeds in which we're starting is from MI Gardener, and they are a primary sponsor of the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener weekly show, as well as our radio program here in Milwaukee. If you'd like to find information about how you can listen to that program, there's a link in the show notes below. So we want to start our tomato seeds about 6 to 8 weeks before your last average frost date. Now, to find your last average frost date, go to your search engine and type in last average frost date and put your zip code. That's the last average calculated frost date over the past 10 years. Things may change. We normally here in Zone 5 in the Milwaukee area, southeast Wisconsin, we typically plant our tomatoes on Memorial Day weekend. Well, last year we planted most of them about 2 weeks earlier than normal. So keep that in mind. You want to look at that long-range forecast. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to start each. We got I think there's 48 of these little cups here, and we're going to start based on the variety. Some of them I want more, some I want just 1 or 2. So I'm going to strategically decide what I want. But let's say on average, 4 to 5 seeds per cup. And these cups are about 3.5 inches in height. And these will allow the tomatoes to germinate, get established. And once they get about 2 or 3 inches tall, then we're going to transplant them over to our root maker trays here. We've got 2 different varieties in which we will plant our tomatoes in. These are 18 cells. This is the solid tray. And then this is the hard removable root maker for the tomatoes here. Now, you can plant anything in these, but these just work very well over the 3 years that we've been working with root maker. These work really, really well for tomatoes, and by planting 1 tomato in here, After we remove it from the container here and divide them out and separate them, they will be fine up to the time we plant for about 8 weeks. And the reason why that is, and these are from rootmaker.com, they are a sponsor of our garden radio program as well. So that's something you want to keep in mind. Good durable containers here to start your seeds in that doesn't cause root wrap or root bound plants. The reason why we can put them in those containers for 6 to 8 weeks and not have any problem is because we're using good potting soil. This is professional potting soil from Sioux Growing Supply, and it's not just a soilless mix. There's a number of items in this. There's actually certified leaf compost, there is some vermiculite, there is slow release fertilizer, as well as peat moss and some other additives in there in order to make the perfect potting mix for your seeds to germinate, as well as have the nutrient value in the soil, in the potting mix, for the plants to sustain good, healthy growth up to the time you transplant them in the garden. So make sure you read the back of whatever potting soil mix that you decide to use, because some of these do not have fertilizer. If you're using the peat pellets, they do not contain fertilizer. You have to supplement an organic or inorganic liquid fertilizer after about 4 weeks to allow the plants to continue to grow healthy. So that might be part of the reason why your plants may not be as healthy as they should be, or you believe they are, is because of the mixture in which they are growing in. So we're just going to take here, we're going to do the Jubilee tomatoes. With tomatoes, I like to mark them, so at least I know, with the 3 gardens and certain portions of the garden, hey, I can put 3 or 4 plants of this variety together, and just so I know I have a little bit of everything. So let's get the Jubilee. So what we're going to do here is just take, and on the back of these packages, a lot of information, you just don't want to throw these out. And we're going to get, there's far too many seeds there. So I'm going to do about 4, put 1 there, and 1 there, and put the rest in. 4 is enough. There's 25 seeds in one of these packages, and that will be plenty here. Then I'm just going to take a little potting soil and just dust the top of them, and then I will mark it. These are just window blinds. You can use a variety of different things. These are great for just identifying the plants that you are starting indoors, and then when we move them over to the root maker trays, we'll have an individual, I'll grid them off, like all 3 of these will be Jubilees and that type of thing. And it also works well as when I go to the garden and transplant them, I can identify what varieties are in the row, and then I'll take on a notepad and write down this row here has these, because in about 2 weeks this information outside will be gone. Now if you want a permanent or garden marker, that would be the way to go to do that. And my gardener has it available at his store. So I'm just going to put the marker there, slide that in there, and I'm going to go through the rest of them, and then I'm going to bottom water the plants here, and that's the best way to do it. One, you want to make sure your potting soil mix is moist before you plant, because trying to get the mixture to absorb water after you've planted with a seed there can be a challenge. Just one, to get these hydrated, because most companies ship them really, really dry, because that's a lot less weight and is a lot cheaper shipping. So you want to keep them hydrated first. So I'm going to go through here, and I'm going to get some of these planted, and then we will talk about fungal gnats, and that's something a lot of people fight in their grow rooms, and there's a couple of techniques in which you can greatly reduce the number of fungal gnats you'll have in your grow area. So I've got several tomatoes planted here, and what we're going to do is finish this up, but I wanted to get some done and then show you about the fungal gnat issue. Now with these plants planted, these tomato plants, there's between 4 and probably some of these will have 6 or 7 tomatoes in it. This is the same procedure in which I did peppers several weeks ago. And I planted just a pinch full of seeds, and this is what has occurred. And then what I'll do is I'll extract these out of this container and move them into a root maker so they don't have root bound, and they'll develop more vigorous roots. And when you have a more vigorous root system on a plant, the plant is healthier and will produce more in the long run. But in about 2.5 to 3 weeks, these tomatoes will look very similar to the cluster of peppers I have here. Now fungal gnats are an issue that many people face or in a lot of soil. It's a gnat in which feeds off the fungus in the soil. When the soil is extremely wet, that's what occurs. So three things really what you can do to reduce the number of fungal gnats in which you will have in your grow area. One, keep the soil damp, not soggy, wet, or extremely moist. That will reduce it one way. Two, your potting soil mix, what we do is we bring it inside, let it warm up to regular house temperature, leave the bag closed. Leave that alone for 3 or 4 days, and what happens then is the fungal gnats, the eggs and all that stuff that's inside that naturally will begin to warm up and hatch and start doing the natural reproductive thing. So then we'll take it outside on a really cold couple of days and freeze that bag solid. Then we'll bring and leave it there for 2 or 3 days. That kills all those live insects in there. Then we'll bring the bag back in, let it thaw out, and we'll plant in it. Now, if you're in an area in which you don't have that kind of cold temperature, or if it's a different time of year, simply put enough soil, keep the bag warm, then open up, put enough soil in a bag or container, put it in your freezer. Do it that way. Works just as well. In addition to that, in addition to keeping the soil damp, not sopping wet, we used ground cinnamon, which has antifungal properties that we sprinkle on top of the seed bed area. Does two things. One, it has the antifungal properties, which reduces the fungus that's in the soil. And two, the smell, then fungal gnats they don't like that. So that's several ways in which to reduce the number of fungal gnats that you have in your grow area. So regardless if you're planting peppers, tomatoes, whatever, those ways will help reduce that. And then this is the one way we can reduce a lot of space right here, because there'll be hundreds of tomatoes, and then in about 2.5, 3 weeks, about that time, the tomatoes will look like the peppers here, and we'll transplant them into our root maker cells. And each root maker cell will get one tomato plant, and that will sit there until the time to plant. So there's all kinds of varieties of tomatoes to choose from. Choose the ones that work well for you in your area, and always experiment with a few new varieties in which you think you might like. Thanks for joining me. Join me again next time for more organic gardening and food preserving, as well as seed starting. This has been the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener, and I'm Joy Baird.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.